Good morning, everyone. If we can start to take our seats so we can start close to time. We do have a live stream, so I know people are waiting at home online for us to start. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to our International Women's Day mayoral breakfast here at the Clock Tower Centre. While today is a scaled-back version of our normal International Women's Day event, Council understands the importance of continuing to hold this event even in current times. So for those of you here in person, welcome to our breakfast, and to those of you streaming this event online, a big welcome to all of you as well. Before I begin, on behalf of Moonee Valley City Council, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which Moonee Valley is located, the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their spirits, ancestors, elders, and community members past, present, and emerging. We also extend this respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. I would also like to acknowledge some of my fellow councillors, Deputy Mayor Katrina Hodgson. Katrina will also be on our panel a little bit later. Councillor Ava Adams, Councillor Rose Isa, Councillor Narelle Sharp, I think at the back of the room. We have Councillor Pierce Tyson and Councillor John Sypek. I don't think John is here yet, but will be attending later with his partner Kathy. I also want to acknowledge the many representatives from the Rotary Clubs of Moonee Valley, and I also want to extend a special welcome to our panel members. This morning we'll be hearing from the Chief Executive Officer of Moonee Valley City Council, Helen Swee, the Chief Executive Officer for Assembled Threads, Edwina Walsh, and we have the St Columba's College 2021 co-captains, Alicia Lowry and Grace Saporito. Before we start, I also want to acknowledge the women of Moonee Valley, and in particular this year, we would like to recognise any victim survivors of domestic and family violence. We recognise their resilience, we recognise their courage, and we stand beside them in advocating for much needed change as we move towards gender equality. Today, we're going to have the opportunity to hear from some amazing local females. So for those of you in the room, please feel free to keep eating during my address. That way we can give the panel members all our attention. And for those at home, please grab breakfast, grab a coffee, and enjoy the next hour. Just a few little pieces of housekeeping as well. The toilets out the back and to the left or downstairs as well. If you haven't grabbed breakfast yet or would like to go back for seconds, please don't hesitate to get up during my speech. Go and feed yourselves. Breakfast is a key part of this morning's event. This morning's event is also a chance for us to raise some funds, and today we're raising funds for the Moonee Valley Timor-Leste-Likasar Friendship City Relationship Program. So funds raised will go directly to Council's strategic project partner, Health Alliance International, who are delivering a new program which will aim to help reduce infant and maternal mortality rates by training hospital staff and providing equipment to respond to newborn emergencies. We're also running a silent auction for this cause, which I believe is at the back of the room. You can go and see Gemma down the back. There is some great small items there. We've got a lovely hamper from Lamana Supermarket in Essendon Fields. There is a season pass for the Clock Tower Theatre downstairs, and there is also a Move 12-month gold membership. So Move is our new branding for our leisure facilities, and that 12-month membership will get you right into the East Keilor Leisure Centre as soon as it's ready to open, as well as being able to use Queen's Park Pool and the Ascot Vale Leisure Centre. So in addition, your ticket this morning has also helped support some very talented women living on the Flemington and Ascot Vale housing estates, who are employed by the Victorian Government's Working for Victoria initiative in our Mama's Kitchen program. Mama's Kitchen prepare and distribute culturally appropriate and nutritious meals to people who are doing it tough. Today's sweet treats have been prepared by these women, delivering valuable employment opportunities for other local women. So many thanks to the ladies of Mama's Kitchen for your contribution to today's event. For those who may not know, each year around the world, people come together to celebrate International Women's Day, which this year fell on the public holiday, Monday, the 8th of March. It is a global day celebrating the social, economic, cultural and political achievements of women, and also marks a call to action for accelerating gender parity. International Women's Day has occurred for well over a century, with many groups campaigning for women's equality over time. Today, International Women's Day belongs to all groups collectively across the world. We want to also take a moment to acknowledge the humanitarian crisis unfolding in the Tigray region of Ethiopia. We understand this is impacting our local residents and East African communities who have family and friends currently displaced, missing, or at worst have lost their lives. We know globally women and children are disproportionately impacted by conflicts of this nature. We send our thoughts to our local communities and those abroad. We know gender equality is an important issue in Moonee Valley, as it is in neighbourhoods and regions throughout Victoria. We also acknowledge that gender equality is critical in preventing violence against women. We also can't talk about gender equality or International Women's Day without acknowledging that around 60 women a year are murdered in Australia by men who believe they are not their equal or believe that they do not deserve the same rights. At Moonee Valley City Council, we are committed to promoting gender equality, ensuring women and girls have the same opportunities as boys and men, whether it be in their sporting club or their place of work. We're committed to making our community equal and safe for our women. The International Women's Day 2021 campaign theme is Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future in a COVID-19 World. This theme celebrates the tremendous efforts by women and girls around the world in shaping a more equal future. Women stand at the front lines of COVID-19 as healthcare workers, caregivers, innovators, community organisers, and as some of the most exemplary and effective national leaders in combating the pandemic. The crisis has highlighted both the centrality of their contributions and the disproportionate burdens that women carry. Women leaders and women's organisations have demonstrated their skills, knowledge and networks to effectively lead in COVID-19 response and recovery efforts. Today, there is more acceptance than ever before that women bring different experiences, perspectives and skills to the table and make irreplaceable contributions to decisions, policies and laws that work better for all. The majority of the countries that have been more successful in stemming the tide of COVID-19 and responding to the broader health and socio-economic impacts are headed by women. Yet women are only heads of state in 20 countries worldwide. In addition to persistent pre-existing social and systemic barriers to women's participation and leadership, new barriers have emerged with the COVID-19 pandemic. Across the world, women are facing increased domestic violence, unpaid care duties, unemployment and poverty. Despite women making up the majority of frontline workers, there is a disproportionate and inadequate representation of women in national and global COVID-19 policy spaces. To uphold women's rights and fully leverage the potential of women's leadership in pandemic preparedness and response, the perspectives of women and girls in all of their diversity must be integrated in the formulation and implementation of policies and programs in all spheres and at all stages of pandemic response and recovery. Council, in partnership with our local Rotary clubs, are bringing you this breakfast to celebrate International Women's Day and to maintain the march towards equality and ending violence against women. We are extremely excited that you are all here to help us celebrate International Women's Day, and I'm extremely excited to showcase what women in leadership look like here in Moonee Valley. So we'd now like to welcome our panel, and I will get them to come up one at a time. So firstly, I would like to welcome Deputy Mayor Katrina Hodgson. There are no set seats, so Katrina, there are stairs. So Katrina was elected to Moonee Valley Council in October 2020. She's a historian and a passionate community advocate. Katrina has worked for the past 10 years with traditional owner communities in Victoria, undertaking historical research to support land rights claims, and more recently as a public servant. She lives in Moonee Ponds with her husband and one-year-old son, Joe. During what was a tough year last year, with many of our community suffering from financial hardship, stress and isolation, Katrina put up her hand to run for council to represent her community and make sure that Moonee Valley residents continue to be supported to stay healthy and connected. Katrina's honoured to be a councillor and in her very first year is our recently elected Deputy Mayor. So welcome to the panel. I would now like to welcome our second panel member, which is Council's CEO, Helen Swee. So Helen is the current CEO of the City of Moonee Valley and a well overdue first female CEO of the City of Moonee Valley. Helen has for more than 20 years worked throughout local government, the state government and not-for-profit sectors. Prior to accepting the CEO role at the City of Moonee Valley, Helen was the Director of Asset Management Reform and Implementation with the DHHS Housing Division. Helen's local government experience includes 4 years at the Whittlesea Council, where she initially held the role of Director of Corporate Services and then took on the role of the Director of City Transport and Presentation. Helen is known for valuing, developing and engaging staff to deliver positive community outcomes. Among her achievements at Whittlesea, Helen is most proud of the development and implementation of the People Strategy and Plan, which won the 2020 IPAA Leading Employers Award and led to a more engaged workforce and significantly reduced workplace injuries. This, together with other initiatives Helen put in place, realised savings for the community in excess of $50 million. It doesn't stop there. Helen has a Master of International Politics, a Master in Professional Accountancy, a Graduate Diploma in Local Government Law, and an EMBA from the University of Sydney. She's also a CPA. She was finalist in the 2015 Telstra Business Women's Awards and was more recently selected and served as a judge in the 2020 Telstra Business Women's Awards. Obviously, as a council, we're extremely delighted to have her as our newly appointed CEO, and Helen will play a key role in delivering our MV 2040 vision. Welcome, Helen, to the panel. Our next panel member that I'd like to introduce is Edwina Walsh. So Edwina is the CEO of Assembled Threads. Now, Assembled Threads creates sustainable employment for culturally and linguistically diverse communities through local apparel manufacturing using locally produced or recycled textiles. 13 local residents have started training at Assembled Threads on the former service station site just over the road at Moonee Ponds Junction. They are under the skilled guidance of Julie Wright, who is the Head of Fashion Programs at Holmesglen. Edwina is also the Design Director and founder of Bamboo Monkey, an eco-commerce brand that has a climate-first approach to its raw materials, delivering socks, clothing and homewares sourced from sustainably sourced grown bamboo. Previously, she was the co-founder of ifeedrefugees.com and Head of Business Development at Sisterworks. Edwina is passionate about young people, the planet, delivering purpose and embracing projects that match these values. With over 20 years of experience in garment product development, Edwina wants to create businesses that are fit for the future of a healthier planet. Please welcome Edwina to our panel. I would now like to welcome our two St Columba's co-captains to the stage, Grace Saporito and Alicia Lowry. So these ladies are the 2021 college co-captains at St Columba's College. Upon being asked what drew Grace to apply for the position of college co-captain, she stated that leadership is a word defined differently by everyone. She believes that being a leader is like being a fairy godmother, to be that someone who will put needs of others first, someone who will use their authority and power to make the worlds of others a better place, and someone who is even that person who can share those hard truths. What drew Grace to fulfilling this role was the fact that she could make such an important impact on so many people's lives. Having been at the college for so long, she felt as though she understood the needs of students, and coming into her final year with a strong desire to have more voices heard, particularly based on the year that 2020 was, what better way to get voices heard than through a position of leadership? Grace knew that this was where she could gain the authority and support to back the voices of her peers and be that fairy godmother they need from time to time. Please welcome Grace. Now, echoing Grace's sentiments, Alicia was drawn to apply for this leadership position because she saw that through this role, her dream was to shape, change and empower young women to love themselves and each other. She was inspired to be a leader by the chance to be a contributor to a bright future and to look back at her Year 12 experience and be proud of the mark that she left. It is through this role Alicia really thought she would be able to break down the negative culture at the college and inspire others to smile, to learn and to live a life defined by their dreams, not the expectations placed on them by others. Please welcome Alicia to our panel. As a council, it's so important that we celebrate and learn from the works of these leaders within our community, particularly on a day like today and this week while we celebrate International Women's Day. So we will shortly start by exploring some themes and questions that I'll put to our panel members. We will then open the floor for some Q&A. So I please invite you to think of some questions you would like to pitch to our community leaders. Again, before we start the panel, if anyone does need to grab breakfast, please do. Otherwise, we will start to hear from our panel members in a couple of minutes. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah.
I think I'll just turn them on. Probably have.
Okay, good.
Cool test.
Be nice, please.
Did you really believe the cab said it was stairs?
Yeah. I was like, oh, do I have to step up that piece?
Hello, we got this leash.
Yeah. What do you want to do when you were younger? Already? Why? I like the uniform. No.
Oh my
Why?
God, I like the uniform.
No,
Because it was blue. Wait, is it blue?
I don't even know. I was just like, I don't know why.
Because I love animals.
Thank you.
And you love people.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
There's a clear distinction between our two leadership styles.
Thank you. Really great. Yeah. Such a step.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah.
Ooh, it's cold
I know
too.
it's so cool.
Not in this sort of a role. I'm a humble public servant. I've been a member of the Labor Party for a long time, but just as a grassroots member, which I suppose is what councillors are. They're members of the
Open
community.
8:35.
So you 8:35.
Probably we're just going to be like
We're
running
just going
in.
to run in with the
I never
banners.
thought I'd run to council. So.
We're right.
Yeah, I always say never say never.
They'll get
but-
someone else to do it. They can get Lucy and Gemma to do it.
No, it's not in my 10-year plan, but neither was running for council, so.
It's funny how
Good,
be
right.
right.
It was so funny. I was looking at them. I was like, I'm definitely going to sit in front of the shore.
I was like, why?
If you see a gap and you just sort of think, well, someone should step into it, and then people say, well, why shouldn't that someone be you? Yeah.
Should we just force Miss Fish to tell us our chem scores?
yeah.
What's one thing you drink? She hasn't.
I don't know. I think she's waiting for Daisy and she's going to be friends. Yeah, they'll ask, what do you really want to see in the future? I'd really love this.
At Chem Sack School?
Yeah, I really love my chemistry back.
Wait, so she hasn't, how do you know she hasn't sent the mark?
I saw some fluoro as I
Ladies and gentlemen, if we could be seated. If you need to go and grab another little snack or a coffee, please do. We'll start the panel in 1 minute. If we could be seated, and we will start our panel discussion. As I mentioned, please think about some questions you would like to pitch to our community leaders. So if we could please be seated. So once again, I'll get you to put your hands together to welcome to the stage Edwina, Katrina, Helen, Grace and Alicia. So in my speech notes, I gave you a background of each of these amazing women, but I thought we would open up our panel discussion by asking each of them about their current role and what leadership means to them in their role. So I'll start by throwing to our Deputy Mayor, Katrina.
And I'll be the guinea pig with the mic. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I think I just want to start by acknowledging the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung, the traditional owners of the land, and paying my respects to their elders and ancestors. And also paying respect to all of the amazing women in the room who play a leadership role in Moonee Valley. In particular, I just want to acknowledge my council colleagues, Councillor Sharp, Councillor Adams and Councillor Isa and Councillor Byrne, who may or may not be watching at home, but I know she'd be very sorry to be missing out on today. And I think that leadership in my role on council it's a shared role. It's an interesting role as a council. We are a council of 9, and we share the leadership of this city. And I think that really suits my leadership style in the sense that I am very collaborative, and I like to share ideas and bring everyone along. So council, being a councillor is a very, it's a representative role. I represent all of Moonee Valley, and being a leader in Moonee Valley means bringing everyone's ideas along, bringing everyone to the table and making decisions in the best interests. So I think that really suits, the way that I see leadership.
Thanks, Katrina. And Helen, you obviously have a workforce of over 1,000 employees here at the City of Moonee Valley. What does leadership mean in your role at Moonee Valley?
Thank you, Mayor. To me, of course, I lead the administration part of the organisation and support the mayor and councillors deliver outcomes to the community. That's what most important. What that to me in the leadership is lead by example. Do what we say we're going to do. Lead with courage, lead with integrity, and lead with clarity in direction, and importantly, lead with empathy.
Excellent, thanks Helen. And Edwina, for your role at Assembled Threads, and you obviously bring together a team of varied backgrounds, what does leadership mean in your role at Assembled Threads?
Thank you, and thank you very much to the community of Moonee Valley and Moonee Ponds for welcoming Assembled Threads. We're really excited to be part of the local community. My role is as founder and as CEO of this project, because we did start as a 3-month pilot to test the theory, is really to drive the strategic purpose of this project, because it's too important not to. So I have that role, and then the secondary role really is to nurture and build the team, because we do have members from 9 different countries, 9 different cultures, and it's been really exciting and rewarding to see how quickly this community at Moonee Ponds has built and formed very strong bonds. And once that started happening, really then my role became to step back and to let everybody grow, build and develop and shine.
Thanks Edwina. And Grace and Alicia. Grace, what, for you as a leader at school, it's obviously a different role as a student leader as opposed to the principal's role as a leader. So what does being a leader mean as a college co-captain?
Well, as a college co-captain, we're very lucky to have the both of us here. I think that we complement each other very nicely. I think that it's really our role to just be the middleman between the students and the teachers and the staff leadership of the school, because as we said, that it's our goal and our vision to just increase that student voice and to make sure that that is heard. So I think that mainly our role as a student leader is to be able to get the messages from both ends of the spectrum, from students to the leadership, but also explain why some decisions have to be made, because, you know, sometimes you might not always agree with leadership and what happens, but it's important to understand why and understand that it is for the best of everyone, and to just, you know, make the school a place where everyone wants to be, not like, because, you know, school can sometimes feel a bit like a chore, but it's, you know, we want to make it somewhere where we want to be and somewhere that everyone has had their input and feel really special to be there.
Thanks, Grace. And Alicia, similarly, leadership to you, but also I guess reflecting on your first month back at school, what has leadership meant coming back to school, particularly hopefully for a full school year this year?
Yeah, well, leadership for me means about like empowering people to believe that their change is possible and believe that their ambitions for the future are heard and can be implemented, like their dreams will become a reality. And it's been great in the past month or so to bring the entire school community back together and remind girls that they've got so many people backing them and so many people behind them, and that we're all in it together, and that we can achieve our goals, and if we remain hopeful and remain persistent, that we can do anything we set our minds to.
Fantastic, thank you. Next question to the three members of our panel that are employed. I'm keen on hearing about professional challenges that you've experienced through your journeys, and obviously, as I mentioned in the bios, there have been varied journeys as well. Katrina, I'm going to go first to you. Professional challenges that you've faced, either gender-based or other, and I guess any advice to women that are in the audience or watching on the live stream about persevering through those challenges.
Sure, thanks, Cam. Look, I think that the workforce and workplaces in general these days are becoming incredibly high-pressured environments, and the pressure to do more with less is growing, and I think that that's been amplified as the large part of the workforce has worked from home in the past 12 months. So probably my key challenge is, and continues to be, trying to find a balance in life between work, the home life, things that you enjoy doing. And I'm not sure that I've got any amazing tips to share in the room. In fact, if anyone's managed to achieve it, I'd love to hear what you've got to say about it. But I think you've just got to remember, know what your goals are, make sure that you're looking after yourself, that you've got time to spend doing the things that nurture and nourish you, if that's work, or if it's family, or if it's, recreation. Make sure that you've got the time to do that, because that's going to allow you to succeed in the other spheres of your life.
Fantastic. And Helen, yourself, obviously a varied career through private, public and non-profit sectors. Professional challenges that you've faced or overcome?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have been reflecting on how lucky I am here today and how grateful I am for many people, including great leaders, who are willing to trust and sponsor me over the course of my professional journey, in particular my journey in Australia. They saw and brought out the best in me. I remember arriving in Melbourne Tullamarine Airport 26 years ago. Although very well educated, I was barely able to speak a full sentence in understandable English. The value I learned in my homeland of hard work and determination were no less useful here. I remember hearing people who I respected a great deal saying to me with honesty, "Helen, you are a great talent, always working with the highest integrity and quality. Unfortunately, it's very difficult for you to further advance your career here in Australia. Australians don't like Asian accent very well. It's not right, but it's the reality." I knew that this advice was honest and came from a good place. I also knew that despite the obstacles that had been pointed out, that I was ready for the challenge. I simply wanted to do my best and see how far I could go and how much value I could create for this beautiful country which I chose to call home. One person in my career had a profound impact on me and how I could be here today. Sam Overland, former CEO of City of Whittlesea, made me feel that my efforts, my qualifications, and my performance did not need to be discounted because of my gender, my color, my accent, and even my height. I was given real opportunities to be and bring my best to the community and the organization. The incredible thing is that it felt like someone was following the HR handbook of inclusiveness. He just meant it and did it naturally. I felt deeply welcomed and valued for the quality of my work and as a person who I am. This wonderful, empowering, and inclusive experience gave me hope about how gender equality and cultural diversity can be truly embraced by our society and the nation. The fact that I have been appointed as the first female Chief Executive Officer for this beautiful city is a real testimony of the progress. So thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and councillors for trusting me and have confidence in me in leading this wonderful organization. I won't let you down.
Thank you very much, Helen.
And I believe I'm doing my bit towards equality, diversity, and inclusion, and have certainly been a beneficiary of changing attitudes. However, we need more leaders like Simon, like our Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and councillors to help us overcome assumptions based on race and gender, ignorance, and fear of difference. I hope that when my 11-year-old daughter Chloe grows up, she can truly have a fair go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Helen. And I think no better choice than you to lead our city and represent our extremely diverse community. So we're delighted to have Helen on board. She was appointed in August last year, and already she's got a great team of directors underneath her, and Moonee Valley is really reforming, and it's an exciting place to be mayor of, to live in and to work in. Edwina, professional challenges for you, either now or earlier on in your career, and any potential advice to women in the room or streaming online?
I think one of the biggest challenge that we face in workplaces, and my experience is in large corporate workplaces in the retail world. So very, very different from councils and places where there's perhaps a little bit more protection and support for employees. So probably one of my earliest experiences and learnings was I'd just come back from New York. I was lucky enough to live in New York for 4 years and do my degree in merchandise management and product development at FIT. And so I was full of all this knowledge. I was so excited. I was jumping from the design side of the industry into the retail industry. There was one big box retailer I really wanted to work at, and I was lucky enough to get in front of somebody and they offered me a job. And when I joined that organisation, I didn't realise they just retrenched a third of the building, so it was a very, very poor culture. And I came in, and one of my roles was to run the fashion forecast team. The other role was to actually look at all the private brands in that stable for that retailer. Make sure that they were the right customer profiles, the right brand DNAs. And I spent a lot of work on this project. And at that time, they brought in a new CEO. And she was brought in from the US. And the US has a very, very different retail culture than Australia. Very much a bullying culture. And so I was a new young graduate, and I had to go up and present this body of work to the new CEO. I was very excited to do that. I put a lot of work and time into it. And she just looked at me, and at the end of this big presentation where I'd gone through menswear, womenswear, children's wear and homewares and all our brands, she just looked at me and said, "I want 2 new brands in women's wear." And so I was a bit annoyed. I was like, "Oh, what kind of brands? Can you give me a little bit more information? And she just looked at me with this steely gaze and she said, I told you what I want, you better learn to listen. And that was it. And I walked out of there and I was, oh my God, you know, I couldn't believe it. And I couldn't believe that someone could behave like that. And it was a real learning that sometimes people feel leadership is about being dictatorial. And it also was a learning for me to back yourself. I had all this training, I had these skills that actually weren't at that time available in Australia. We didn't build brands in the way that they did in America. We didn't have that strong private brand culture. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do it. And I set up a whole new process, and part of that process was actually letting the customer decide what those two brands were. And they ended up being very successful brands in the stable. But it was probably one of my first lessons in leadership of how not to be a leader, to be honest.
Thanks, Edwina. That's some great insight. I want to pass to our student leaders now, and Helen spoke about her 11-year-old daughter Chloe and the world that Chloe will hopefully grow up in. So I'll put to you first, Grace. In 20 years' time, how do you see the world that you'll be living in, and particularly the world you're living in as a female?
Well, I think that in 20 years' time, what I would like to see is a lot more women in positions of leadership. I think that we're definitely getting there, but I think that I just like, you know, all of the debates about, you know, fair pay and gender equality. I just want them to be over. Like, I just want it to be, you know, that we can just be all seen as equals and we can all be, you know, all have the same opportunities. I want my kids, well, 20 years should be all right. My dad's like having heart palpitations right now. No, I'd want my kids to be able to look up and see, you know, I can be like her. Like, that is someone who I can aspire to be like. Like, you know, Jacinta Ardern, I think that she's played a really huge role in this pandemic. And I think that even for me in Australia, I've seen that, wow, you know, just even like a woman's touch sometimes can just be so much more nurturing and just really bring everyone together. And I think that I would love to see more people like that in roles where my kids could aspire to be like that and really see themselves there and, yeah, just put more things into action, I guess.
Fantastic. And I think as well, it's at a local government level, and Moonee Valley's a great example. Since 2012, we've had a majority female council, still got a majority female council. In the past 9 years, there's been 7 female.
Like, instead of being like, we want to see more CEOs, be like, the change that we shaped 20 years ago allowed us to be where we are today. That would be great, to be able to be like, tell our story and say all the hard work that we did really did pay off.
Fantastic. That's an excellent view. Let's flip it around to our other 3 panel members, going back 20 years or however long you want to go back. When you were young children, teenagers, what did you envisage as your career? Has it panned out that way? We'll go to Katrina. What did young Katrina want to be?
When I was young, I wanted to be a mermaid. When I was a teenager, I was very interested in I loved watching the TV show All Saints. I don't know if people remember that one, but I think I wanted to be a paramedic like Bron. I wanted to be a teacher like my mum, and I ended up pursuing a career that I didn't even know existed when I was young. So when I went to university, I studied arts and science, and I always just thought, you know, science is where you can find a career because it's a lot more practical in terms of the skills that you can acquire. But I just had a passion for the history degree that I did in arts, and I pursued that. I trusted myself to be able to find a job at the end of that pathway, and I did, and it's been incredibly rewarding.
Thanks, Katrina. Sadly not a mermaid, but there are other options. Helen, for you, and maybe just reflecting back to your time growing up outside Australia, where did you envisage you were going as a child? What did you want to be?
Probably not dissimilar to Katrina. When I was a child,
A mermaid? Did you want to be a mermaid?
No, mermaid, I'm just saying, I was in a very different environment, obviously. In China back then, really limited in what you can do and you can imagine. So really was, but I would say not dissimilar is changing every now and then. One day want to be a scientist and a teacher, certainly, because apart from myself, all members of family had been teachers or are still teachers. I wanted to be a doctor. That's probably a lot to say why my eldest now is a junior doctor. It was only one day I realized, and I put lots of pressure for him to be a doctor, but it probably reflects what I wanted to be. And studying international politics wasn't one of my dreams when I was a child. I have no idea how I ended up studying that. I think it was because I was allocated to study that because I chose university, which was Beijing University. But it's a wonderful experience. But when I probably get in my early 20s, I realized it doesn't matter what I want to be. I really just want to try what I'm best at. So I just really want to expose myself to as broad a range of things as I could. And that's part of why I came to Australia, because it's a freedom, is a belief I can pursue better things that even I couldn't imagine when I was young. I think that's true. So it's really, I live the life as I say, okay, I want to try my best. I don't know what tomorrow will be. I never actually dreamed of, I want to be a CEO one day. No, it's always I want to do better. I want to deliver better outcomes to the people surrounding me. That was my driver. And then all the other things, whether it's a position title or salary, they came naturally after I deliver what I believe I can deliver to the people surrounding me. Thank you.
And Edwina, a younger Edwina, where did you envisage you going? And
I'm just trying to think. I don't think I had any grand plans. I think if somebody had looked at me from afar, they would have said to my parents, just head her straight into fashion. I used to be making things all the time and changing my clothes 5 times a day, and was absolutely passionate about that product development, creative side. But I went to a school that was all girls and very rigid academically. So it was sciences or humanities, and then you went straight to university. We had quite a progressive headmistress though at the time, and she would say to us all the time, you will have a career and not a job. So I was like, okay, so what's my career? Maybe I like people, psychology, maybe I'll do that. So I went to Melbourne Uni doing an arts degree, majoring in psychology, and about 2/3 of the way through, much to the disgust of my parents, I dropped out because I just was bored. It wasn't what I wanted to do, and I decided to give myself 12 months to get a job in fashion. If I couldn't, I would go back. I luckily talked my way somehow into a graduate traineeship with the company and never looked back. And then it was not till later when I had the opportunity to go to New York and study and do the exact degree I wanted to do that I then completed my degree.
Fantastic. So we'll open up some questions to the floor if anyone has a question. Noting we've probably got 5 or 10 minutes, so if there are any questions, I'll come out with the roving microphone. Surely there's got to be some questions. Right down the back, all right. I've got one.
How have you seen female leadership roles and the culture of those hierarchy roles change across your lifetime? And how do you hope to continue to empower and inspire young girls to aspire towards these roles of leadership?
Might go to you first, Deputy Mayor. Female leadership roles, how have you seen them change in your lifespan?
I think what I would say is that we're starting to appreciate how much diversity is important in our leadership structures, and respecting the value that individual and unique experiences can bring to the table. And I think through that, it's becoming more common to see women, people from diverse backgrounds, entering positions of leadership, and that's to the great benefit of the organisations that they lead, to society as a whole. Second part of the question. Sorry.
I guess the changes in culture as well, workplace culture that you've experienced through your lifespan.
Yeah, so I think just, in having that, it's been a more welcoming space. I would just recommend, in giving advice to anyone wanting to, seeing that there needs to be a change and thinking that, someone needs to be a part of that, I would encourage it to be you. I think I never thought that I would run for council. I often say that I was a reluctant councillor, but I think, that reluctance didn't come from not wanting to do this. It came from not knowing whether I'd be good at it. And I got given a little bit of a push. And, I love doing what I'm doing. I'm certainly, growing into the role. I think you've just got to be brave. You've got to decide for yourself, to back your experience and your value.
Thanks, Katrina. And Helen, for you as well, and we might build off it a little bit to, I guess, your experiences as a female working throughout the sectors you've worked, but then building off that, obviously council CEOs is still a very heavily male-dominated industry. So what advice would you have to females who are wanting to pursue a career but in a male-dominated profession?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Diversity itself is a power. We complement each other for we're different. I often say, well, I'm great, I work very hard, but the world will be very boring if full of Helen Swees. We need a difference. The most probably powerful leadership lesson is when, as part of my executive MBA course, we were led 17 of us in the class into a art gallery in Sydney. What we were giving is a portrait, a piece of art, and then we were asked to tell the story, what we see. And all of us thought, or at least I was thinking, maybe there is an answer at the end of that, what was the author's intention of the painting. So 17 of us probably came up with 16 and a half different stories. Surprisingly, at the end, the facilitator said, actually, it doesn't matter. This is what is the author's intention, but the purpose of this exercise is not about this. It's about the 17 of you in the same room at the same time saw this piece of art. You came with different stories. That's leadership. Is you need to understand and appreciate different perspectives, and that's diversity. And that is the most powerful leadership piece to me, which I still use a lot, is doesn't matter with gender diversity or cultural diversity or diversity in thinking style. It is we appreciate, we may be different, but we complement each other. It is important for me to understand Jim sitting in front of me, what he's thinking, why he came that way, what is the background underneath his thinking. That's powerful leadership. Coming to the mayor's question of, in a male-dominated world, what is my advice is, again, appreciating people have different perspective, but believe in yourself, have confidence, and importantly, deliver what you say you're going to deliver. And you will find that people actually will start have trust and confidence in you and will follow you. So it doesn't matter whether I'm a woman, and I'm sure that probably than all of you in this room. It used to bother me when I was 15 or 16. I do wear high heels. I'm very skilled in wear high heels, but it doesn't bother me. I can talk to people who, talk 2 meters high, and I don't feel intimidated. I don't feel any difference. It's just we're different. So I think it's confidence and be comfortable who you are. Thank you.
Thanks, Helen. And then maybe building off that as well to you, Edwina, what role do males play in empowering women, particularly in a professional setting or in a leadership setting? And men in the room, men watching on the live stream, what can men do to support women in leadership to push towards that gender equality?
I think firstly, if Chloe and Grace are the future, I think we're in pretty good hands, which is great to see. I'd like male-dominated professions to be taken out of the vocabulary. I think it's time now, well and truly time. But I'll give you an example of what I believe is true leadership and the future of leadership. We have a young woman in the hub, culturally very different, arrived as an asylum seeker, newly married, arranged marriage, arrived in Australia, no family, no community, just a husband she didn't know, had 2 children close together and very isolated. Had a passion to sew and was doing that at home. COVID hit and it changed everything because her husband, who was driving taxis, lost his work. She was doing a Stepping Stones project at Brotherhood of St Lawrence, and they had the flyer for the Assembled Threads pilot, and she asked her husband if she could apply. So he sort of said, oh, okay, maybe, go to the interview. And I remember she came to the interview and she was very nervous, and this is my passion. And you could just tell it was her passion, and you're in. And her husband was very nervous about it because in her culture, women just don't work. And especially once they get married, they never work. So she was really going outside very strong conservative values. But they needed the money as asylum seekers. And she has blossomed. I met someone from Brotherhood of St Lawrence recently, and they came in to have a chat to her, and they couldn't believe that this was the same person because she never spoke for the 2-month program that they ran. Whereas now, she's a natural leader in the hub, and whenever she's there, she will stand and engage the whole team, and she encourages them to practice their English because she arrived with 0 English, and she taught herself English by listening to podcasts and listening to the radio. And that passion for sewing is her purpose. This is her purpose, is to work as a sewer and work as a designer. And we've actually been able to, Julie and I have worked together at Homeschool, we've actually got her into Certificate 4 level. She can't believe it. She came back after the Christmas break saying, I had an argument with my husband. I said, I need to do this course. I need to study more. He said, no, please just wait till we get residency and we can afford it. No, you need to get a loan. She's like, we can't afford it. And when she came back, I could say to her, look, Julie and I have been working on the site. We've got you in. And we think we can get you a scholarship. And we've managed to get the fees down to nothing. And then another local, the Farnham Community House locally here in Moonee Ponds, bought her books. And another organisation, when they heard she was an asylum seeker, gave them her other bits and pieces for free. And she is blossoming. And I keep saying to her, you're going to be running Assembled Threads, very quickly, very soon. That's my hope for her. But she has naturally shown what leadership is. It's if you have a purpose, you need to stick to that purpose and you need to follow it. And I think her husband has really shown what needs to happen is that men need to support women in their purpose and in their passions. And if they want to work, fantastic, because she's taken the leadership role for that whole family. she's now the sole income going into that family at the moment. And it's been really impressive to see.
Thanks, Edwina. So noting we're almost at the finishing time, and many of you might want to grab a coffee or one of the Mama's Kitchen treats before you head off. So I just want to finish with our student leaders and pose the question to you. What can all levels of government, local government, state government, federal government do to empower you as young females as you grow up and leave the school life into the workforce? To you, Grace.
I honestly just think just to have those opportunities there, like to make them available. I know going to, I'm not sure where this really falls, but I know that going to like uni open days and stuff I saw, because I was looking at engineering for quite some time, and I saw that there was so many scholarships for women in engineering, and I think that like just having that opportunity and having that support for women would be, yeah, just nice to see, and would make you feel a lot better about going for those positions, or, you know, being who you really are, and going off, you know, what the other women on this panel have been saying, just to be your best self, but to feel supported to do that. And so just to have those opportunities there would be, yeah, a really great step, I think.
And Alicia, responsibilities of any of the three tiers of government to enable you as a female going out into the world?
I think to have like perspective, like to understand that women are as strong and as capable as men, if not more, and to realise that just because you're of a different gender doesn't mean you bring anything different. And I feel like when people have that understanding truly, then there should be no barrier to gender equality, because just because of the gender that you are doesn't define your skills. And once people understand that, then there should be really not too much of a problem.
Fantastic. What an excellent note to finish on. If you could put your hands together to thank our amazing panel. So that concludes our formal part of the proceedings. We do have a silent auction that will run for another 5 minutes, and I do encourage anyone who wants to hang around to have a chat to our panel members or any of the elected councillors as well. Just some quick thank yous, obviously, to the Rotary Clubs for supporting us this morning. I again want to thank our amazing panel, and just think having female leaders in Moonee Valley share their stories was such a valuable contribution, not just to this morning's event, but to that broader discussion. We also have a former St Columba's student, Lauren Galtieri, who's playing on the old piano downstairs, was playing when you came in, and will be playing on exit, and we thank Lauren for her time today. So as I said, that wraps up the formal part of the proceedings. Again, thank you everyone for attending. Thank you very much to the council staff who have organised today's event. For those that are watching on the live stream, thanks for tuning in and joining us this morning. And once again, please thank our amazing panel members. Yeah.